Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Tryhard Tuesdays, where we learn to try a little bit harder. I am your host, the Grand Wazoo, here with my co-host, Mr. Blue. How you doing, Mr.?
Good. I am trying harder.
Yeah, always trying harder.
Always. At everything. I will staple this paper harder. I will write with my pencil harder.
Drive harder.
I will drive harder.
Walk harder.
I will walk hard.
That's all the images that intro is supposed to elicit for you.
Yeah,
so I'm glad.
That's the inspiration for the show, really.
Yeah.
It's just the Dewey Cox story, you know?
More or less, except with Dota.
Except for Dota, yeah.
Dewey
Cox, but with Dota.
Fame and such, but who needs it? Welcome back, guys. It's good to have you here. I am not going to speak for both of us, have not been playing a lot of Dota lately. So it's been interesting. I mean, I feel like when you take like a week break and you even come back, you're not like, your sword's edge is not sharp. You know what I mean? And you're just kind of like,
so true.
It's not like riding a bike, guys. Like, you don't just come back and you're like where you were. I feel like even just a short break, it dulls me so much. Do you ever get that feeling?
Yeah, it's just like you've lost your edge, man. You know, you just like, you cannot get, like the last hit timings aren't just right, and the blink ranges are a little off, and the tread switching just isn't there. It's just a lot of little stuff that, of course, in a game like Dota adds up very quickly over a 40 to 50 minute game, you know? So I've been there with you where, you know, you just take, I mean, I think I had like a solid like 10 or 12 days when I went on vacation. Didn't play a game of Dota, didn't even think about it, didn't look at it. And then I come back and it's just like, I feel like I'm like 75 years old trying to pick up a computer and play a game for a first time. It was just so bad. I was just off. So I can empathize for sure.
Yeah, and you go on and everyone's like, you're stupid, you suck. And you're just like, no, I don't. I was good at one point. You're like the guy stumbling out into the rainy streets with like a bag of booze. Like, yeah. I was famous once, you know, like, or something. Yeah. I wasn't even that. I was like 3.45K, you know, like, but it just feels like I try to go play a solo game or any game, and it's just like I have like a delay or something. Yeah, delay in my actions.
You doom the creep. You scorch earth just randomly in base. You're like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Pretty much two most OP abilities in this goddamn hero's toolkit. What am I doing? Yeah. I've been there. So what have you been playing?
A whole lot of Doom, actually, Doom? Now that you asked. It's interesting because he's one of those heroes that fits in anywhere, and he has like high game impact, so I'm all for him if I just want to hop on and play a game. And maybe that's my problem, because he seems to reinforce like even my worst habits even worse. Like just going up and being able to tank two dudes and like coming out and stuff, like bad engagements that you can miraculously live through because of Scorch, like stuff like that. Like he's a very like I don't know, I need to play with more like regard than Doom of Fortune, so true. I guess.
Yeah, you can be like wildly out of position with him, and then you just cast Scorched Earth, you kind of tree juke a little bit. All of a sudden you're like it's like a mini Slark ultimate where you just kind of juke around and they don't have vision of you and you're fine. Then you're back to like, 3/4 health and you doom them and they're like, what the hell? Like I hit every ability on you. What am I doing? So you're right. He is kind of one of those heroes that like is a little bit of a crutch if you're a little too divey. But man, the 6.85B change that really nerfed him. His win rate's gone down a little bit since then.
What's it at? What's it sitting at right now? Because it was over 50 before, wasn't it?
It was like 50. Let's see, October 31st, the day before the patch, it was 53%, and as of today, immediately after the patch, it went down, and as of today, it's 49%, which is actually it's a huge jump.
Yeah, I guess that's where you want him.
Huge really. Drop. I mean, yeah.
It's interesting. I've been playing offlane a lot more. I don't know why. Like, I feel like I come back and all those things that were kind of giving me an edge, like being able to last hit really well and stuff, like I have to relearn those abilities almost. Offlane, like when you are given a bit of farm, like you really take advantage of it. I feel like when the carry leaves the lane, you're just like, I got to do this. But as like a carry, it's really hard. It feels like if you're just missing every other last hit, it's just like so demoralizing, and you almost feel like you need to go into a custom game to just come back or something. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's something you got to get used to, man. You haven't been out there in the wild. You've been coddled by Mama Cyphus for so long.
Yeah,
you don't even
exactly.
You don't even know what that big world, wild world's got out there for you, man. They'll punch you in the face, take your money, spit on you, and walk away.
take money that was supposed to be yours in the form of denies and such. Yeah.
You're like a little trust fund baby that just has gone out into the real world, and people are like, mean to you and shit. It's like, man, this is it.
It's not fair because I'm privileged and such,
This is life, man. This is life. But offlane gaming, it's for real. But you know what? I encourage you to play more offlane, man. It makes you strong. Put some hair on your chest.
Yeah, and I mean I've played mid a bit, and then I played strictly, carry lane. So I'm trying to learn the other positions now, kind of. Like I'll play 5 sometimes, and like I don't know. I don't think that helps me win at all. But I don't know. Maybe I've as good of a chance as any other strategy.
Yeah. So. Just do some normies on the 5, and then I won't flame you when we play ranked team.
Yeah, all right. I think we win a lot in ranked for some reason, but
we do actually. What was that? The last game we played, I was I think I was Invoker, and you were you weren't Doom. That was Roland who was Doom. You you were Lycan.
Yeah.
You were Lycan, Mr. I'm trying to mix it up.
Yeah, but the only reason I'm trying to mix it up, just to clarify, is because I get shut down too much with him. He's still definitely a situational hero. He's not a late game carry, really. It feels like.
That's true.
Like I don't know. He doesn't have that control that like someone even like a Doom gives you. So I'm looking like heroes that I can like definitely win a game with, like a high impact hero. But I don't know. I need to start playing like the Slardars and those harder carries, Spectre, stuff like that. I don't know.
Oh, segues.
Yeah. So I think that is a great segue. Thank you for that. We should get like a backing band behind that.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa, segues, drop it.
That's gonna be my signature segue from now on. Just whoa, segues. And
that kind of brings us well into the conversation, because the conversation and topic for today's episode is going to be focused upon the Midas. It's a very interesting item. I think it's not one I have a lot of experience building outside of like a carry lane scenario where you might build one, I guess. But for the most part, I've always erred on the side of not really building it in lieu for other items, because it's quite expensive. It feels like you got to get it early to make it super impactful, and I feel like a lot of people build it just for like the gangstiness of having like a golden glove that turns shit into gold. Like I feel like they don't necessarily know why they build it all the time.
I mean, it's a 401k. It's like, I don't know why I'm putting money into this, but I know eventually it'll pay off. I don't know if I'll live long enough for it to pay off, but we'll find out.
It does pay off, but like I want more than a payoff if I'm going to build an item that only gives me that. The experience is good too. So, I mean, that's something we'll discuss. But
the attack speed, man.
Yeah.
That plus 30 attack speed.
I always forget about that, because but it's there. You're right. They
take
the glove and throw it in there, but it's like, is it enough? So I guess this will be an interesting topic, because we're on either side of the item, and you build it sometimes, I build it sometimes, and I don't know. I just wonder when it's really worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. That's a very good angle to put it at, because the beauty of an item like Hand of Midas is that it changes the way that everyone plays the game. But whether you're on the other side, the opposing team, and you see someone as bottom Midas, or you're on your team and you see that your guy's bottom Midas, or you yourself are bottom Midas, it just changes the whole dynamic of a game. When you have a Hand of Midas, you might play a little more carefully. When you see a team that's gotten a Hand of Midas, maybe at a later time, call it the catch-up Midas, the infamous catch-up Midas. Then you just, maybe that's the signal to go 5-man some towers down. Cut off the map, cut them off at the knees, because it's such an X factor, because you can't. It makes it much harder to outfarm an enemy when they have it. When they have the extra 190 gold in their pocket every 100 seconds, it's so huge, and it's something that it is talked about, but it shouldn't. It should be talked about more. It's just the 2.5 times experience that you get from that. I mean, that's a huge bump. Early on, especially if you can get that Midas early on, and you get to Midas a big creep, a big neutral. I mean, that could be easily half a level right there.
Yeah.
And that has big impacts. That could mean that you get to your level 11 that much faster as, say, a Storm Spirit, or not Storm Spirit. That's a terrible example. Say Slark, say Gyrocopter, say it just, insert carry here who wants to get the second level of ultimate.
I feel like it's kind of a little bit like doubling down, though, in a way. Like if you are in such a position where you can get quicker experience. I mean, that's really good on a gyro or a Slark or something. But if you die and you're slowed down after you've peaked out, and then they catch up with you, it's like all that was kind of for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, and the rubber band might really affect you on that.
No, absolutely. And even when you are ahead, like you said, it can be risky. I mean, a build a lot of people used to go, I mean, all the time, and I used to do it when I was first playing Dota, was Shadow Fiend. Shadow
Yeah.
Fiend, rushing a Midas, maybe going boots bottle and then into a Midas straight away. Like it's just like ultimate greed, right? You get a Midas, but it's like this hero can flash farm so fast, and then you look at the win rates with Midas, and you see there's a reason why Hand of Midas is a situational pick. You look at I'm just looking at Shadowfiend here, 40% win rate when he's got a Hand of Midas. That could mean one of two things. That could mean that either people who have gotten the Hand of Midas have sold it by that point, or people who've gotten the Hand of Midas and still have it. If you still got the Hand of Midas, you didn't make it to the late game. You didn't get enough farm. You know.
Yeah.
So it is kind of one of those weird items that isn't necessarily an indicator of whether or not you're ahead, because you could be going for that catch-up Midas. And it's so dependent on team comp. It's so dependent on other items that you might need. I mean, let's talk about Slardar, a guy who Gorgon and you and myself talked about a lot in the upcoming segment. Think about Slardar. People used to get Midas on Slardar because the exact reason that Gorgon talked about is that he doesn't flash farm well. Okay, well maybe I'll go Midas, get the extra attack speed. That'd be playing him in the one spot, but it's just like it makes you realize that there really isn't a particular hero this item is meant for, and the ability to use it in different scenarios is kind of what makes it such a cool dynamic item.
It really is. It's one of those items that you can see built in any lane by really any position, depending upon the situation. I've seen supports that really go, off the wall getting it, but I mean, that's rarely going to happen. But I mean, it just goes to show that it's kind of like an insurance plan in a way, which is if you don't feed, you can just keep tugging on that Midas on a hard creep every once in a while and grabbing some golden experience. And it's a guarantee for people in any position. It also expedites the whole jungle farming process just by being able to tug away. I mean, Doom is a good example of that. I know I've already talked him up this cast already, but I mean, with Devour Creep, you just become so reliant on that every 90 or less than 90 seconds after it's level 4, and even before level 4. But it's not that high of a cooldown, and you just keep tugging away on creeps, or you go in and you get a special ability. If only the Midas gave you the special Devour ability as well, But
oh my god, that'd be the most overpowered shit ever.
Yeah,
but I
really would.
I would
Doom
love that. Yeah, it is kind of crazy how you see it on a lot of non-carry heroes. I mean, even looking to the pros, you see a lot of 4 positions. If they're having a really good game, they might go Midas. I mean, for example, we talked about Night Stalker. In the off lane, also played in the 4 position. He is a great ganker, and maybe he's having a really good early game, and he's getting ahead. He's another guy who can't farm very fast, so he doesn't have a flash farming ability. So you pick up a Hand of Midas on him, and you stay relevant throughout the game. So you can keep ganking away as long as you're Midasing a creep. You're maintaining some semblance of equilibrium with the enemy heroes. You're staying relevant in terms of itemization, in terms of farm. So that's kind of one of those situations where it kind of works on a non-carry hero, or a hero who's not playing the carry role. So there's a lot of fun ways to use Midas and to take advantage of it. I mean, the catapult now can be Midas, so you get over double experience on that. That's something I've seen a lot of people do lately, which is nice. There's just a lot of cool uses for it. I mean, if you had to list your top, let's say your top 3 Midas heroes, who would you say are your favorites? Maybe it's let's just assume it's a run-of-the-mill standard game. Drafts are pretty balanced, and you're playing hero X. You go, Midas is a viable option for him, and why?
I think ours are going to overlap, but just these aren't heroes I necessarily play, but those that I see make good use of it because they can kind of get it at a pretty good time just in the jungle is Enchantress and Nature's Prophet would be 2 of mine, just because once they both grab that, I mean, Enchantress is already in the jungle getting creeps and stuff, so she has a way to earn it. I feel like she can grab that, and she doesn't even necessarily need to get kills or anything by that point. She can kind of sustain off the Midas. I feel like that's always a really good choice. The same point for Nature's, I mean, that kind of depends on how your ganks go and all that. But if you get it super early, he's another one that he can just teleport anywhere, take a hard creep, and then he's back doing whatever he was doing, pushing lanes or whatever. So I feel like with heroes like that, they're more PvE. And so that risk, that inherent risk, isn't quite as high as someone who's in a lane. But I think it's high with Nature's Prophet, like, don't get me wrong, because he will be teleporting and such. So my third hero, I don't know, I like it on Void, kind of, but that's just like old pub trash mentality.
Oh, God.
It really is like old pub trashy. But I don't know. I used to do it sometimes, but I don't anymore.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. Maybe on an off lane, like you got to
something
catch
like
up, and your other carries aren't doing too hot, and maybe you got a triple kill. I'm trying to help you out here.
no, it's super pub trash that I started doing in like 2K, but it doesn't work that much. I don't know. It just made me feel powerful as the Void. A real answer would have to be like Invoker. My real third answer, I guess.
No,
just
that
because
one makes sense.
he doesn't have that ability to farm super quick. I mean, he's got different things depending on what he goes, but I feel like the Midas is good on him if you get it at a good time mid or wherever you are.
It's important on him because he's entirely experience dependent, really. I mean, he naturally gets items and he can farm decently, but really he's a hero that like needs to hit 25 or really 17, 18 or something reasonable faster than pretty much any hero to be really good, because all of his abilities are dependent upon the level in which you're using them, right? The damage is dependent on that.
Yeah.
And it's to a higher degree than like your basic put 4 points into this skill and then it's better. That doesn't really happen with him. He scales much better with experience than most other heroes. So when you get a Hand of Midas, it just doubles down on your experience gain, which is the big problem that he suffers from.
Yeah, I feel like ability-centric heroes really good with a Midas, but you still need that guarantee of being able to get it at a certain time. You can't... there is a catch-up Midas mentality, like for sure that you were talking about, that it does work, but I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that's always good to have early, so you're just fucking cranking it every single time until you have to sell it.
just cranking that Midas,
dude, just cranking it
pumping
every time.
That gold.
And the catch-up thing, I mean, that's when you're kind of down and out. Like, you never want to have to build a Midas when you're behind or anything. So it's just like one of those things.
Yeah.
What are your heroes? Who would you pick?
I'm so glad you said Nature's Prophet, because I fucking hate people that buy Midas on Nature's Prophet. I can see it in situations, but those situations, for me, the way I see the hero, especially over the past, I don't know, basically since TI3, since they changed him after that point, he is a hero who can't just rely on, out farming enemy heroes, because you look at all the popular heroes right now, all the heroes that are in meta, they can absolutely go toe-to-toe with him, even if they're one item or two items behind him.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't have any natural fighting abilities. So, I can have a sheep stick. Let's just, I don't know, put an example up. Let's talk Legion Commander or Slark or Slardar. Any of those heroes you face up against a Nature's Prophet, even if a Prophet who's got, a Desolator and an Orchid versus a guy who's got a Blink Dagger and, maybe an Armlet, I'll take the guy with the Blink Dagger, Armlet, the Slardar or something, because he just naturally has better ways to fight. So getting a Midas on him is 2k gold that could have gone to being 3 items ahead, or 2k gold that could have gone to getting an item that helps your other teammates get better items, so you can gank on the map more. That's like half an Orchid I'm looking at right
with
there.
The Midas sacrifice, with taking the Midas, and that's a really good point. And I mean, you play him more than I do. I just I guess a lot of impactful natures that I've seen sometimes in pubs, which is super pubby, is the Midas build, and you see them being able to jump really quick because I'll just go back and forth between jungles once you control some map and then the ancients, and by that point you're just Midasing something every time you're over there, and just can really explode. But by that point, you already have to be super ahead anyway. So it's like he can do that without the Midas anyway.
The same guy that goes Midas on Prophet is the same guy who takes a lane that normally would have gone to a carry and pushes that lane away from the carry, so he's not getting any of that.
Oh, you're completely right.
So that's the
Or
problem.
the
I see
type
is
that builds
is-
like no
is-
boots Dagon or something.
Yes. Oh, fuck those guys, right?
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so for me, the top three I like are just off the top of the head. These are guys who are good with experience and really benefit from the experience. And to me, it's guys like Warlock, guys like Phoenix, guys who normally don't play the hard five position, who require a lot of golden experience, but don't have a lot of easy, natural ways to flash farm something. So I would say, Ancient Apparition is another pretty good example. Those are heroes who can't farm, but once they hit their levels 11 or 16, they just they have a huge impact, a much higher impact than a lot of heroes who get those levels 2 and 3 of their ultimate. So, for Phoenix, I mean, how does she farm? She throws out her little fire spirits. Is it a she? Is Phoenix a she? I feel like
Yeah.
we've had this conversation. I don't remember.
I think so. I I think it's like an ethereal bird
Bird.
demigod.
It's
So like I don't know, maybe it's all genders or something.
she, her,
I don't
she, him.
know.
Yeah. It's. I'm just saying she. That's it.
All right, yeah,
It's
fair
done.
enough. It
I've
squawks,
genderized
it squawks and stuff like
Squawks.
higher pitched. I don't know. Like I don't know if there's any indicator there,
Oh
but
my god. Oh, we've
um,
just alienated the female audience there.
oh no. I
Squawks
just
and
like she does, but I don't know if it's she. I guess is what I'm saying.
that's true.
Um,
So her and Warlock and those guys they really want to get stuff like Warlock and Aghanim Scepter, and he needs to get level 16 for the golems to be really good. So like those are guys who Ancient Apparition. How's he gonna farm? He's not gonna farm fast at any point. So if he can get a Midas, that'll get him a little closer to that Aghanims. That'll give him a way to stay relevant, to get some experience. Even if he's off the map. If
it's
he's not.
definitely a very good utility item for those people in that position that are kind of there for their abilities, but still need to obviously get their abilities at a good time. I mean, an AA who still has level 1 or level 2
Yeah.
ult
It's rough.
by 20 minutes. I mean, what are you doing in the game really? Like, it's not, the impact isn't that high. I mean, they just have to not bunch and you're pretty much irrelevant. You know what I mean? So having that item as like the safety net, if you do get shut out and you can just kind of rotate and take Red Ursa or something, like that's awesome. I definitely agree with those picks.
Yeah, so I think that kind of wraps up the whole notion of Midas for us. It's just one of those interesting items that has a lot of utility for a lot of different games, and the approach to when you're buying the item and why can be so different, right? I mean, you can be ahead and you can be buying it. You could be way behind and be buying it and hoping that you can hold out longer for it to be worth it. It's such a cool, like, I don't know, is there any MOBA out there? I mean, people tweet at us if you know, and you certainly know more than I do. Is there any MOBA out there that has an item that's quite like Midas in terms of cost, the investment and the amount of return that it can give if given the proper amount of time,
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of such a thing. It's really I like that it's so situational and that you don't see it so much. It's like it has some clout to have one sometimes if people build it for that reason. But really thinking about the process of, is it a good thing for my hero? Does my hero have ways to farm? All these things can kind of lead you in the direction of when to buy it, And I feel like that's like kind of something we've come up through here, is that like you should be asking yourself, is this something that would not be gold better spent into something else, and then I can just kind of flash farm even at a faster pace.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I feel like that's a pretty good place to wrap it. A lot of like airy advice in a way, but it is just one of those items that are as situational as some situations in Dota. It's just so hard to like sum up in one simple way when you should and shouldn't buy it. You can build it in a lot of different situations, like you said, so that's very good. On another note, and kind of switching topics, we had a guest on today. We had Gorgon to talk about meta leading up to Frankfurt, and it's a tournament we're all really excited for here at .p, and something we're all looking forward to. So we had Gorgon on to talk to him about that, and it was a great time. So we will be transferring out to that interview now, and we will see you guys back here in a little bit. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tryhard Tuesdays. Thanks for sticking with us. We have with us now someone that's no stranger to the .p community at all, and that's Gorgon, the Wonder Cow. Thanks for being with us, Gorgon.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here and back on the .p family of shows.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you back. What have you been up to?
You know, just kind of working and freelancing. You guys have probably been able to see specks of my writing around town, from Dota buff to join Dota and just about everywhere in between. I've just been working, you know.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Blue.
No, I was just saying you seem to have your hands in everybody else's pie. It's
Yeah,
interesting to see it. You kind of like spring up like a whack-a-mole. Like we can't seem to find a particular spot for you, but you're just everywhere.
I'm a dirty pie handler. That's exactly what it is. It's when you have only moderate name brand recognition, the only way to continue to make a living in my shoes is just to be everywhere all the time. So editorial teams know me, but I think the general audience still is like not quite on name brand recognition point for me. So it's just a lot of work to keep my head above water, you know.
Yeah, that's fine. That's really cool. It's a good way to live, you know, sometimes, I guess, if you're following your dreams. That's really awesome, man. And you also get a lot of, like, you've somehow mastered this strange dark magic none of us know, which is called people, like, responding to you really well on Reddit. Like, what pact with the devil did you make to,
what
like...
do you
It's
do?
a crapshoot. It's like 4 out of 5 times my thoughts are generally well received and they spark discussion, which I really like. And then 1 out of 5 times it's just completely shut down. So I'll definitely take those numbers. I think a big part of it is that I will, after I see something that I've been involved in goes on Reddit, because I don't actually post my own stuff all the time. A lot of times other people end up posting it.
Yeah, I see that a lot, too.
I will hang that thread out and I will watch it. And if people have questions, I will answer them. And if people have criticisms, I will tell them, I think that is a valid criticism, or I do not, and here's why. And I try to incite reasoned discussion for a little while. And that seems to lead to a decent amount of success, but it is a huge time sink as well. So I try not to do it all the time. But yeah, that is part of it. You know, it's making sure that you have something interesting to say and that you are willing to interact with the people who have something to say about that.
Yeah,
making yourself available.
Reddit's really good for that, and I think when you have that attitude, it comes off a lot better. Like, I'm just another, like, schmo. I'm just like, oh, I like Slardar, and then everyone's, like, downvotes me to, like, I don't know, you know, like, I feel like I say super obvious things whenever I communicate, but it never feels like I get much of a reaction, and maybe that's why. So, I don't know. I just noticed that quite a bit over the past couple months, just seeing your name pop up more and more, and that's pretty
true.
cool.
It's always nice to see my name pop up more and more, right? It means the name brand recognition to some point is starting to come along. So
It's working. Actually, in addition, you've also done a little bit of casting on the side. I think I've seen you a couple times do some casting. Is that something that you're getting into a little more, or is that just something you like to do on the side if the need arises?
So that was my entry into esports, was casting. I used to cast a lot. Like I casted every region of the TI4 qualifiers. I used to cast the Canada Cup, Dota Pit I was the original caster for.
That's right, I remember that.
I used to be one of the primary casters for Join Dota League. I did basically an entire season of Southeast Asia Join Dota League. I've casted with Shiver and Tobywan and Capitalist and Nahas, and then some real life stuff kind of got in the way of the insane amount of flexibility you need in order to maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like I would have to be up for 6 hours in the middle of the night, and then the next day I'd have to be up at 10 to cast again. And it's, so I transitioned a little more into analysis and writing because it fit a reasonable lifestyle a bit better. I do like casting still. I'm not as practiced as I used to be. But right now I'm casting the Collegiate Star League every week, twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday. So if anybody's interested in catching my casting, you can do it there, and you can kind of see what me and my old ball and chain toffees can do on the mic.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
that's
cool.
awesome. Well, we brought you here for a couple of reasons, and I'll just explain that now, I guess. We're planning on reformatting the show with you as kind of an updated what's going on, like, sketch with you with kind of not just pro news, but kind of the meta, what people are doing strategically and how that ties into .p, because it's a huge part of the experience of the game. And although me and Blue, we love watching Pro Dota, analyzing it, talking about it, we felt like you could really add something. So it's great to have you. And I guess we'll kind of just jump into the discussion and kind of discuss the meta as we see it now before the majors and upcoming tournament.
Let's do it up. Yeah, let's make it happen.
All right. I mean, I think we're seeing like the trend kind of continue that we saw a lot in Nanyang and stuff like that. And I think going into a Secret's pretty strong, but that's just because they play that super, super get farmed type mode with E, and he is kind of capable of dying for a good cause. I've noticed that a lot about E, with a lot of other heroes kind of being, or carries being kind of worried about dying. E seems to be able to sacrifice himself. So I don't know. I think that benefits the current meta.
Yeah, I do also think that for Secret in particular, one of the things that never really clicked for Cloud9 was that EE tended to die kind of a lot for no reason compared to other carries, right? Like, he's an amazing carry. He's got a lot of talent. But relative to his team, they didn't always seem to click just right. And I think the way the Puppy drafts and the way that the in-game shots get called, I think a lot of that is Puppy and some of that is EE. There is always somebody to capitalize on those moments where Envy is out a bit ahead of where he otherwise should be, or to capitalize on the bait that EE is putting out, and vice versa. He is a fairly active player once the mid-game hits, so he is there to capitalize. If Puppy's a little out of position, Puppy's also kind of a greedy, aggressive support relative to a lot of other supports, especially from his era of play, right? He's like one of these first-generation Dota players. But yeah, so Secret, they have just been syncing really well together in terms of coordination and making sure that they are capitalizing on almost every opportunity.
It's just interesting because typically you see like a team go through growing pains. Like I feel like you're seeing it happen with EG a little bit right now with their switch up.
For sure.
It feels like a lot of, and me and Cyphus and Blue and everyone on our team have really talked about this, and that's like there's this period of growing pains that if you don't have that like level of communication, it's just gonna be really hard to sync everything up until you can. You know, what do you think about that, Blue?
Yeah, and that happens really. It feels like it happens at every level, even at our little trench, here in our amateur Dota league. We had a little adjustment period when we, swapped out Roland for Fafnir, another player. And to me, it's just something that is, I expected a greater adjustment period for Team Secret, honestly, especially considering you had a guy like, Weeha, who had played, he was really the central character on the team that he played beforehand. It was, wasn't that BBC, if I'm correct?
Yeah, it was not.
It was not
what I would consider a professional team, right?
Yeah, it was like him and +4, basically, right?
Right.
And so
he's like a pub star, basically.
Exactly, like having him transition into this role as a stable mid player, whereas EE he continues to be EE in that he does these crazy, he makes some of these crazy plays or plays a little more risky than he ought to, and sometimes he gets away with it, and sometimes the team expects it and then capitalizes on it. I find it's amazing that both Weeha and Pylai Dai have done as well as they did. I mean, Pylai Dai is a guy who had been, much maligned on Cloud9 for a long, long, long time, because it was Pylai feed or all these terms about him playing the sixth position.
Puppy has had feed attributed with their name at some point, I think, except Weeha, who didn't even have that much pro experience, right? Maybe we might escape that, but yeah, feed, but FEED is a big thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
So for guys like Pylai Dai and Weeha to have such a positive impact, I think it was in the tournament. Didn't Pylai Dai have like one of the highest KDAs or least amount of deaths?
Yeah, he was up there
in the tournament. Yeah,
as the best player.
I find
in the
that
tournament.
amazing. As the number 5
number
position.
1, I think. But that's very interesting to me. That growing pains type thing. I mean, that's endlessly interesting to me because it feels like that can kind of come off on the captain in a lot of ways. How you organize your team and how you call shots and all that can like really cut back on that time too. So it's like another thing at like the 99th percentile of play that you can like eke out an edge, and I find that pretty fascinating. But
so one thing that I will point out to consider, especially at the pro level, is that the difference between these players in terms of not style but empirical skill at the level where you're talking about your Vici Gamings, your Secrets, your Evil Geniuses, your top 3 or 4 teams in the world, maybe top 5 or 6 teams of all time, sort of thing. The differences in their actual skill, mechanical skill, are small. They make a big difference, but they are relatively small. What really sets a team apart, what really makes most teams shine compared to their contemporaries, is their ability to coordinate well. That communication is so key when you get such a small advantage from mechanical skill, where you're talking one guy might get 54 last hits in the first 10 minutes and one guy might get 58 last hits in the first 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's not a huge buffer. It makes a big difference at the pro level, but a much bigger difference is, oh, guys, we're communicating that so-and-so has a TP and is going back. Oh, guys, we're communicating that so-and-so has a blink dagger now and we're ready to go in. Those really basic examples of the overarching archetype, basically, of Dota is that communication will make a good team a great team, and a team that communicates well will always be better than a similarly skilled team that does not.
Yeah, definitely. It's not all just mechanical skill. There's something empirical, really empirical to the skill of communication, but there's also something unquantifiable. So seeing those little percentages of skill, I mean, the physical representation is in like the micro stuff, right? The mechanical skill, where if you make a slight, risk, it can benefit you so much in a pro game because you're so neck and neck. But there's also that communication aspect, which is a little. We've tried to nail it down in the show. We did a couple episodes on it. We've talked about this concept specifically in terms of just how similarly skilled all these like top teams are. It's incredible. It's making for some great Dota.
And if you go back and watch, like, I would argue there was a huge learning curve for Secret. If you go back and watch ESL 1 New York replays of them, even though they did very well at that tournament, granted, remember, they went through that tournament quarterfinals Fnatic, which I like Fnatic. They're not a world-class team compared to Europe and China's teams, right? CDEC Gaming, who have had just a terrible season. Yeah. They've been on the decline since the International, without a doubt, right? And then Vega Squadron, whom they lost to. So they didn't have the hardest bracket in ESL 1, and you can even see there that there is a big difference, a big differential between their level of execution there and at their next event at MLG, where they also did not perform anywhere near as well as they would at Nanyang. So for Secret, I think that we are still seeing the improvement trickle in, even though it seems like they're absolutely dominating. They still have a lot of room to grow, I think, and that's what's really scary about this Secret roster. I mean, remember, Cloud9 was one of the most successful teams in history in terms of a long-lasting team that made it in the money at events. They made it in the money more as a percentage than I think any other team in history up to their point. I think maybe the old Team Secret might have beat them for that now, but for a long time they were empirically the most successful team in history, but they did not get first, basically ever. I think they got one first in their entire competitive reign, and now we have three of those players on a team with arguably one of the best drafters of all time, in a team that is syncing up, that has a great amount of support. They have statisticians working with them. They have all sorts of additional benefits that I don't know that they didn't have them on Cloud9, but I'm willing to bet that the approach is different with Secret, and it's clearly working.
Yeah, it is, and that just shows these guys are all professionals, probably the best in their game. And just going back and looking, this is something I want to kind of plug real fast, like reading some of Weeha's old Reddit posts and stuff about coming up. Like he was pretty cool about it and humble, and just he wanted to be the best. I've read the same things about EE. Can't really say the same thing about being like humble. I mean, he really is, but he has like that showy personality as well. And just reading, he just wanted to be the best. And these guys really do, deep down, just want to be the best. You don't see money mentioned. You don't see power in a scene. Yeah. You don't see anything like that. You see, I quit it because I quit doing something else in my life because I felt like I could be the best at this thing. And
just to circle this back to the majors. Yeah. Sorry guys, I gotta be the conversation police here. Yeah. Because I could go on a full EE Samas,
I know. But, the passion is admirable and sportsmanship.
I've made a whole soundboard dedicated to that boy. So, anyways, we've talked about what they're doing, on a more intangible sense in terms of their communication. What are they doing that's so successful on the drafting side of things? What picks are the strong picks that they're making? What cores are they going for that are unique? What support duos are they going for? Let's talk a little more tangible kind of draft stuff. You know,
Okay.
what are they
one
doing
thing
right?
that I will say about the draft that works so well for Secret in particular is that they draft for their game and they draft for their team. They don't draft for their meta as much as a lot of other teams do. And what I mean by that is they don't necessarily draft heroes because they think those heroes are strong.
Yeah.
They draft heroes because they think that they are strong with those heroes. So with their second most played hero, or probably actually their most played hero at this point is Bane, right? That's not a hero that you see a ton in Dota. I don't even know that anybody's even played. Yeah, so for Bane, 9% of games Bane has been played against them. 33% of games Bane has been played for them. Like they wildly overvalue this hero compared to other teams because they know that they can make it work. It's a hero that they're comfortable with. It's a hero that fits their style, and it's a hero that they can punish opponents with. They rely very heavily on Disruptor, which is another hero who's not necessarily super popular. They draft for what they want. They don't draft for what they think is in the metagame textbook, right? And that's something that OG does as well, a team that I absolutely love. They've basically been writing the meta in Europe over the last couple of months. I mean, Tiny IO, that was they were the first ones to revitalize that. The heavy emphasis on IO in general came from them and then into Vega Squadron, whose solo has now just become an absolute monster on that hero. Venomancer, they were the first ones to run that hero after the patch it for 6.85. The 4-staff Slardar, the first pro team to run that was OG. So, I can go on for a while on OG because I absolutely love Fly's approach to the game, and I love his draft style and his creativity and the entire team's basic attitude. But they and Secret have similar strengths, that they draft what they think will work. They don't draft what they think the community as a whole believes in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like Puppy's drafting is so incredible because he's not confined by a meta in his mind. You know what I mean? Like he still plays the meta really well. I mean, they're going to get a hero they want just because they have so many like tree branches from what they can play. It's more of an evolving draft rather than going in and saying we'll do this. I saw one game with Digital Chaos, I think, and they were so worried about the Meepo, they picked 3 heroes and then ended up banning the Meepo. And they picked 3 heroes to counter the Meepo and then ended up banning the hero anyway. And so it just kind of shows that like they can get other teams panicking in the draft mode. And once you've done that, it's like, what do you do when you go into a game with heroes?
It's game over. It's game over already. Yeah.
I mean, they're just in your head already. It's that good, you know, like they're like swatting at the Meepo as they're backed into a corner and then they don't even get the hero. It's pretty terrible.
Think about this too, right? If you think, what heroes are people really abusing in Pro Dota? What heroes have been very popular? You're going to think of things like Queen of Pain, Spirit Breaker, Winter Wyvern, right? These are heroes that you see quite a bit. Tusk. But for those 3 that I just listed, Secret have not run them on 6.85, at least not on a ticketed game. So they are drafting a wider range of heroes, and they are not drafting heroes. Not all heroes, but for a lot of heroes, they are not drafting them despite popularity. In fact, Queen of Pain, they've banned a quarter of their games and picked no times on 685. You know, Spirit Breaker, they banned about 1 out of 5 games, and they've not picked them on 685. So they know what their opponents love. They take that away. They either counter it or they do not allow it to slip through. And they don't become reliant on those heroes themselves. Because if you're reliant on the same heroes your opponents are reliant on, what that means is that you have to leave them in the pool, which gives whoever has first pick a enormous first round draft advantage. But if you do not rely on those same heroes, you can ban them out, and then you can pick up your custom heroes for your first round, really giving you a very strong advantage moving into the second phase of bans.
Yeah, certainly. And you mentioned that Slardar build. Something we do on the show often is kind of a representation of a weird out of meta, maybe not out of meta, but might soon become meta.
No
I
longer.
Suppose. Yeah. Of an item build on a hero in a strange position. And you mentioned that Slardar. Would you like to elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, so the Slardar is a hero that we've been seeing toyed around with quite a bit lately in general. What we've been kind of seeing happen recently is that Slardar will be going into a Force Staff and Blink Dagger for maximum mobility. And you started seeing that in support builds, typically. But now we're starting to see it come out of the offlane from Secret's Misery. I know Bulba from Digital Chaos ran it in a dual offlane, and the Misery started running it solo. So it's been evolving, this hyper-mobile Slardar. And really, one of the nice things that Force Staff gives you is that with a Slardar, you can never really be caught up to unless you get blinked onto or stunned out, right? Because he has that sprint, and he can usually get away, which means he can be hyper aggressive. If you have a Force Staff, that will allow you to blink in, to get a stun, get out that negative armor, blow somebody up, and then Force Staff yourself away from anybody who's chasing to get you outside of that range of any potential stuns or disables. And then you sprint and you're faster than they are, so they can't catch up with those stuns and disables.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult to lock them down.
It feels like it's almost impossible, really. I mean, if they get the jump on you, you have the Force Staff to give you a little bit of distance. You can hit the sprint, and by the time they catch up, you can blink out. You know, it's just like there's so many trap doors for that it feels like the hero's kind of finding his place in the meta on top of that. Because I don't think people are completely convinced in a lot of ways that he can carry super hard into the late game. But I mean, he's a really good for that 3 position, 2 position, or even a 4 position for the utility. So
yeah, having that minus armor is just so nice to have. It's a nice, it's a natural way to take Roche. It's a natural, and the Force Staff also, it adds to his mana pool, which he does. I mean, I know when I play Slardar, I just feel like I constantly need to either get a bottle, and it's like offlane Slardar normally, like a bottle, or I need to constantly be doing the tread switching because mana can be a little bit of a problem for him. That crush is on a really nice low cooldown, but after a certain amount of time, you need a bigger mana pool. So even the Force Staff helps there a little bit.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I will say about the Slardar is the reason he doesn't carry super hard into the late game is not necessarily implicit to his hero. It's implicit to his ability to achieve farm. Which is, he has no ability to flash farm, right? He can't wipe down massive waves of creeps. He can't wipe down jungle camps unless you get him a Battle Fury, which is not really the optimal use of his time or money. So he's extremely reliant on aggression, which is why you see these hyper-aggressive teams picking him up. You see people like Team OG, formerly Monkey Business, people like Secret that have high hero damage output. And if you can get that Slardar going a little bit, he does go into the late game very effective as a combat carry. But what he doesn't do super effectively is push. He doesn't deal with mega creeps. He doesn't necessarily high ground defend very well. What he wants to do is provide vision with his ultimate for high ground assaults. He wants to get lots of pickoffs to force opponents to group up and get an experience deficit. And he wants to open up space for Roshan. Those are really the 3 things that hero does very well.
Yeah.
Those are not traditionally roles that you see in farming carries very much. But it is definitely something that a farming carry can do in the right lineup.
I've got a question for you. We really haven't seen him. He was kind of a much maligned hero for a long time in the pro meta. You'd see Alliance pick him up on occasion. Loda play him in the 1 role for a hyper aggressive, kind of team fighty build. But do you think the change where he's allowed to phase through units now is what really jumpstarted him, or was it just a natural cause of all these carries that are sort of fighting carries, and someone just kind of picked him up and realized that he can be a core. He doesn't have to be in the carry role to be effective. I mean, was it that change in 6.84 that let him phase through units, or
so
was that the change that did it?
Dota is an ecosystem, which is a phrase that I use a lot, especially recently when people have been asking me to define what makes heroes strong or weak. By that, what I mean is what makes a hero strong is not necessarily related at all to what that hero does. It might just be related to what the heroes around him do, right? So, for example, if you are going to run a Slardar in 6.83 or 6.84, he is not going to be super successful typically because you're dealing with a lot of magic damage, which is bursty. You're not going to get maximum value out of that negative armor because your allies are probably very magic damage based, and you're dealing with a lot of push, which he doesn't deal with very well. So those sorts of applications of metagame strategy kind of kept him from surfacing. I don't think the changes that have been made to him lately have hurt him, but I definitely don't think that that's what put him over. So
Certainly.
it was 685 that they gave him that movement speed. And they also did some mucking around with the cooldowns that made him more survivable. But I think if that were the reason that he were popular, we would not be seeing that alongside the Force Staff because you'd be relying on the sprint. Right. So the fact that people are building successfully double mobility items, both Blink and Force Staff, what that tells me is that the sprint wasn't enough. And the changes to sprint weren't enough. What the people really needed were high mobility. And what they're really getting out of this hero are the ability to take Roshan, the ability to maximize the aggressive potential of their farming carries, and the ability to take ganks in a era of the game that after the success of CDEC and to some degree complexity in TI5 has really rotated around much more mid-game aggression and tower assault rather than this EG style stay and farm.
Mm-hmm.
Does that all make sense? Did I run through that too fast, or
No,
I
you
feel
got
like
it.
I kind of blew over some points? But
Yeah,
it's general
no,
idea.
it makes sense. I think that's a good place to wrap it. It really kind of sums up the meta in a way, and the type of carries that really do succeed hardcore, like an Ember or something like that, which are those heroes that can just kind of blast through creep waves at a certain point. I mean, you got to be able to get those items on some of those heroes, and Slardar is definitely one of them. So seeing him in that position is interesting. So it's been great having you on, Gorgon. We're going to go ahead and close out this segment. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me and all of my antics over on Twitter at The Wonder Cow. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. And I should be doing quite a bit of writing running up to the majors, so just kind of keep an eye out on everywhere.
An eye out everywhere.
Yeah, I think we'll see you back here as well. So thanks for coming on, and we will catch you next time, Gorgon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, everybody. After that insightful interview with Gorgon, Blue's still with me, I hope.
I'm alive.
Awesome.
I made it.
We
I
made
didn't
it across
pass
the
out
gap.
fawning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pass out fawning over Gorgon and his expert analysis.
Yeah, he's always really great to have because he has a lot of very wide knowledge on a lot of different things. It's very deep knowledge. So he's going to be a more regular fixture on the show. We were having an issue where it felt like we were taking topics like one we had today and trying to stretch it out over 50 minutes, and we just kind of kept going in rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And that's great. And we felt like it was what the show needed as we got it off the ground. But now we're going to kind of start integrating other people, expanding to pro meta and some pro news, because, I mean, it's such a big part of the enjoyment of the game for us. I know I can speak for you. Watching it, kind of talking about it, seeing what's going on at the highest skill level. I mean, all that stuff is stuff that can help your game, and it can help you, I don't know, realize what good sportsmanship is, realize what bad sportsmanship is, kind of take the game and look at it as a sportsman's activity, which I know you and I definitely do.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to have him on and have bring the pro scene a little bit more into the fold. Obviously we're going to stay true to our principles of maintaining, that this is a show about improving and us talking alongside you, the listeners, and providing feedback to us on what you want to talk about, what you want to learn about, whether it's from a statistical standpoint, whether it be, this like this Slardar build that, Gorgon talked about during the segment. I looked up Force Staff on Slardar recently. It has the second highest win rate of any hero that has a Force Staff, 62%.
Yeah, I think you were really onto something there with the mana pool and everything else we talked about on top of it, though, but the mana pool as well, because it just keeps him out and engaged a lot more. So
yeah. So we'll continue to have this discussion where we'll talk about, these intangible elements like communication, but also maintain our balance by, introducing some hard statistics that, either Gorgon, myself, or you will introduce, Wazoo, and hopefully it'll keep a nice balance going. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we're not going to dip into like full pro news drama or anything like that. It's not going to be like a Reddit post or something like that. Shit post, I guess.
Save for the Monday shows.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I think it's more going to. We saw someone in the community that was we had ties with, luckily, and who's very professional and down to earth to talk about lots of different things, and it helps us immensely. So we invited him on.
Absolutely.
You'll be seeing him on every show. We're gonna do like a big analysis chunk where we do like 35 to 40 minutes, and then we'll just have an interview kind of thing, or an open forum rather. So like Crossfire or something, Fox or CNN's Crossfire or something, like just kind of having a big open forum to talk about things. So tweet
Only
in.
we're not assholes.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to think we're not, at least. I don't know.
It depends on who you ask, I guess.
That's right.
For either of us. But so that's kind of where you will see the show going. We have a lot planned, so it is going to be great to kind of start moving in the direction and watching the show grow. You have anything else to add?
No, looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Okay, yeah. Can't wait. Take a knee. Okay, guys. Well, we're just going to go ahead and close out the show. Don't have a lot more to add. You can find me at .p_wazoo. Look for us at the .p show on Twitter at .p_show. And yeah, where can people find you, Blue?
You can find me at Mr. Blue 22, and you can also find the previously mentioned Drunk Pudge Dota YouTube highlight video that was put up, I think, yesterday on youtube.com/.ptv1. And there's going to be a lot more content ahead, just to plug the other shows. Fallout 4, I don't know if you guys have heard about this game.
Just some indie title.
I don't know, yeah, some real underground hipster kind of indie title.
Underground?
Yeah, real oh, God. Oh, God. All right, we got to close this out real quick.
Yeah.
Anyways.
He's tanking out there, boys. No, I'm joking.
Right. Fallout 4 is coming out, and we're going to be doing a lot of recording, so expect a lot of really, really cool content from a lot of different contributors for Fallout 4 on the YouTube channel, so check that out, and that's all the plugs I got.
Yeah, people will be streaming Fallout 4 onto the .p account, and also we're going to put together a podcast for it as well. So who is involved with that and like what's coming out will probably be released in the next week or so. So, thanks for joining us, guys. Remember, stay hard and stay classy.